Okay, this is part 5. Now, I told you guys that I would be at a casino filming with commentary, but here I am for now. Yeah, it's just an everyday, mundane part of Las Vegas. It's a public park. It's what is it? Essex Circle Park, just off Charleston. And so here it is. It's actually pretty nice, but take a look at the grass. You realize how much money it would cost to water this and to maintain this. And that's what Vegas is all about, maintaining a certain level of image or illusion. Alright, so there's a dog there. Okay, so alright, so I'd like to highlight something here. Hold on. Let this person pass. I'd like to highlight something here. It just reminded me of something. It's a nice park. Nobody seems to carry doggy bags. Kind of like Spain in that sense, I suppose. They don't carry doggy bags. Their dogs just shit all over the place, and the owners don't even clean it up. That's the same here. There's no pooper scooper law in Vegas. I haven't seen it yet, or I haven't seen anything that indicates that there would be. Okay, so these are made out of stone, concrete. Okay, I'll sit here and I'll do my video. These kids playing here highlights something that's related to certain groups that you never see at the high-end casinos. Contrary to what people think, well, people overlook the fact that the first European language in this part of the country was actually Spanish. As a matter of fact, Spanish is the main language out here in Nevada, in Las Vegas. Well, the Southwest, New Mexico, Nevada, Arizona. Okay. Alright, so anywhere else outside of, I guess, Texas and the Southwest, these youngsters would just be Latino, and people would say, okay, they're Mexican. Well, I've run into this a lot, and it's really interesting. Of course, you know, I've traveled, and I myself have partial Spaniard ancestry. Very little, of course, but so it's interesting because actually, you see, there are a lot of Spaniards here. They're the descendants of Spanish colonists from when this first was settled by Europeans in the 1500s. So believe it or not, I've already seen this. I've seen situations where the people are speaking Spanish. It's basically, it sounds like Mexican Spanish, but the border basically crossed over them. They didn't cross over any borders. And I've seen situations where after many generations here in this part of the world, there are some people who still have Spanish as a first language, believe it or not, and they speak English as a second language. That's highly unlikely. It's actually rare, but like these kids here, they probably, without asking them, they probably, you know, it's fair to say they probably have been here for several generations. 8, 9, 10. There are some there was one guy I met in Seattle. He was working at the local FedEx in Lake City. And his first name is Antonio, and he looked like he was straight out of Spain. And I said that, you know, that family charter that you have from the King of Spain in the 1500s, you know, they got this huge land grant in New Mexico, which they no longer have. But I said that you can track that down. You can track that king's charter down, or that king, that royal charter, that royal mandate at the archives in Madrid. And he said, really? But yeah, see, in this part of the country, they're not simply just Hispanic or Latino. Hispanic or Latino, especially Latino, because you don't call someone from Spain Latin Latino. Well, you may call them Latin, but Hispanic means you're mixed with Spaniard and something else. It could be black, it could be African, it could even be like me, Asian. But you know, in my neck of the woods in Seattle, if they look like this, chances are they haven't been there for very long. Here, in this part of the country, if they look like this, then there's a good chance that, well, you don't know. They could, for all you know, they could have been here for 500 years, their families. But I've actually seen European-looking individuals. They've got dark hair. They look like they actually could be from Madrid. I've seen that already. So you can look it up on Wikipedia. You guys can look it up on Wikipedia. They're look up white Hispanics, and for the most part, that's where you got the descendants of Spanish colonists intermarrying with the English and other European settlers that headed out west. Yeah, this is a very typical scene. These Europeans predominate this area, but it's funny though, because you don't really see them in the casinos. I mean, you may see Spaniards and you can't tell if they're from Spain or from another part of the country, but like, I've seen it. I've walked into an Indian restaurant and I've seen like two women that look like they could pass for Madrid, just, you know, speak Spanish just automatically, and I had a feeling that they were from this area, yeah, I mean, typically the immigrant experience in this country is you keep your language for maybe a couple generations, maybe 3 or 4 generations, but there are families descended from those Spanish colonists from 300, 400, 500 years ago that still speak Spanish. I know it's incredible, because equivalent exists in other parts of the world, in the Philippines, you know, in Mexico. There are Spaniard families that don't intermarry with the rest of the population. In the Philippines, it's rare, because it's already been proven that the leading industrialist Spaniard families are at least part Southeast or South Asian or East Asian. So yeah, I've tried to explain to people that actually the first language here is Spanish, and the people here look a certain way. They don't look like they're, shall we say, Western European. They look more Iberian, more Southern European. And that's just incredible, though, because some of these families, some of these individuals have been here for so many generations. You know, what is it to be American? I mean, do you say, well, you know, someone whose ancestors came on the Mayflower, I mean, wouldn't that qualify? But then these guys, even though they're brushed with the Latino or the Hispanic label, these guys are more American, if you want to use longevity or length of time here in this country as a criteria, as one criteria, or as a form of criteria. These people, ironically, are more American than the Mayflower descendants. I mean, Jamestown only goes back to what, 1615, 1620. These guys go back about 75 years prior. All those stories about El Dorado and you know, the Aztecs in the south in Mexico, all that took place like in the 1500s. Yeah, I was telling a bunch of people that, you know, the first language, it's funny because when the Jamestown or the other English settlers, no, I don't think it was, I think it was like, maybe it was Jamestown, but it was similar. It was English colonists, you know, landing ashore, and they were greeted in Spanish by the American Indians. After all, St. Augustine, Florida is the oldest European settlement in the country, and that was founded by the Spaniards in the 1500s. So they were greeted in Spanish. And it's funny because those guys, the English settlers, had a Thanksgiving. They were too weak to defend for themselves, so they needed the American Indians to help them out. Well, these guys, you ever notice there's no equivalent for the Spaniards? I was kidding around on Facebook, and I said the reason why is because they brought adequate supplies and adequate guns. And it's true, because when they started exploring this part of the Southwest, Spain was on its way to being extremely powerful. I think it already had the silver mines in parts of the Americas already filling up its crown coffers. But that narrative is skipped in history, in typical textbook history, and at the lower levels. You never hear about the Spaniards in this part of the country. And it's kind of like, we all learned 1776, 1789, all these key dates, how the signers of the Declaration of Independence were this or that, farmers, lawyers, bootleggers, or whomever, whatever. But then one has to realize that by 1776, these guys here, they were already settled in. But they weren't part of the U.S. at that point. In the 1700s, they were part of what would be called New Spain, because Mexico didn't break off until, 1812, about 10, 20 years after the American Revolution. So it was part of the Spanish Empire. The Viceroyalty of Spain was run out of Mexico. So these guys were Spanish subjects. And so it's too bad it wasn't part of the United States, because the United States at that point, of course, would be the 13 colonies. But these guys were already settled. And you notice I think there may have been one or two Spaniards in that whole process, the signing of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Maybe, I'd have to look that up. But these guys were already settled. They had already been, we talk about Thomas Jefferson and George Washington with their slaves and their crops, tobacco or whatever. These guys predate them. They're more a part of the American landscape than the Founding Fathers. It's interesting when you actually think of it in those terms. It's weird. Nothing's marked here in Vegas. Most parks in most cities would say, okay, you can't be here past a certain point. But I think a sign right here, maybe this is it. I keep forgetting. I've been to this park before. I wonder if it actually states the rules. But let's see if it states an actual time. Okay, so here it is. It is 11 o'clock at night. Okay, except it's just posted here and that's it. No pets allowed. The pets are all over the place here. Not right now, but no running allowed. Okay. Yeah. I think if I move in a certain direction, you could actually see the stratosphere from here. Let me see if I could do it. Maybe that was a street over. Okay, so hold on. So in the distance, I'm pointing to it. In the distance, no, that's not the palms. That's something else. Where is it? I think right there is the palms. That's just a guesstimate, though. I was just there last night. In fact, I should have just taken a video from there, but I didn't. Alright, you see all these construction cranes. I mean, when I was first here in Vegas about 24, 25 years ago, the same thing. They always have construction cranes. A lot of these projects have gotten killed, and a lot of them have been stalled. Alright, so again, typical day in Vegas. Look how blue that sky is. It's not as cloudy as this morning, but it's not as deep blue as it normally can be typically. So these lights right here came on just a few minutes ago. I think it's probably on this video as well. But it's a well-kept park. It's minor graffiti, so what? But, that's the one thing. It's kind of weird. It's like, tourists get robbed in Vegas all the time. But you would think in a park like this there would be drug dealing or pimping, but surprisingly, no. It's just, I guess it's just one of those pocket parks that nobody knows about. I only know about it because, I'm on Google Maps frequently, and I just noticed this pocket park here. You know, all these houses, and you'll notice with each house, AC too. I gotta mention AC to you guys. You see, I'll walk towards the houses. See, I was talking about this, I think in the first or second video, how these AC units are about as big as 2 or 3 refrigerators. They're actually on the rooftops of every house, and that's how hot it is in the desert here in the summers. And again, I remind you that summers are 5 months long here, and by early November it's still about 85 or 82. All right, and then it dips down to about 70 towards the end of the month. Okay, look, see that right there? That right there is an air conditioning unit, and they all have it. Nobody has a wall unit because they're too weak. See, every single one. You see how big that sucker is? I'm a good 200 feet away from this house. And by the way, that shack here, well, I don't want to say shack. That house here is probably only about $200,000, $250,000. That same house in Seattle would be $750,000 easily. But it's really typical. Oh, it's nice. It reminds me of El Parque de las Palapas in Cancun. The parks in Mexico tend to be like this. But yeah, it's not a complete circle. Usually in a better city, this right here would encircle the entire circumference of the park. It doesn't. What did I tell you guys? Typical. See. I mean, it's just too easy living here. It's easy, but you know, it's weird. It's like you don't earn very much in Vegas, but you can get an apartment, you can afford a car, you can afford a house, but good luck raising $5,000 in 3 weeks or 2 weeks. Yeah, if you're earning $2,500 a week here, that's big money. You're like a super powerful mogul. Okay, so this is actually a pretty good idea. It's clay, I think. Yeah, and it doesn't go all the way around either. It just breaks off. Same thing with the sidewalk. But yeah, it's quiet. I've never seen bums at this park, but several they do have bums. That's normal. Surprisingly, this park is pretty clean. I mean, there's like just one junk food wrapper on the grass. It's surprising, since there are only a couple garbage receptacles spread throughout the park, and it's not here, of course. It's over here, a part that's active with the swings and the socialization areas. But yeah, just imagine how expensive this must be to maintain this. Man, I mean, remember folks, it only rains in Vegas on average about 25, 30 days a year, if that. Imagine, and like, look at this. There's a patch of green right here. Look at that. Oh, right, and there's my car right there. Park right there. Yeah, it's pretty chill. Okay, so this is it. This is as green as it gets. Do you ever wonder how it's possible for everything else to be, you know, one color, and then all of a sudden it's green? It's kind of like a person dyeing their hair, you know, the roots are white, or a person that, you know, in these countries where whiteness or light-skinned complexions are valued, they apply a lot of baby powder on their faces, but then their necks and their arms are darker than their faces. Well, it's a similar type analogy. Look, similar type situation. How is it that this is green but that is not? Well, I mean, I guess maybe it's because that it's probably one of those things I showed you in the previous clip, where it doesn't need that much water. The grass, and it's not even grass, it's like vegetation. They planted that there. They planted that there, and it probably resists dry days or dry weeks. But you know, there's another patch here. There's another patch here. Yeah, same thing. But yeah, it's pretty quiet. A place like this in San Francisco would be packed with people. There's a middle school nearby, and that has basketball courts and tennis courts, but it's the same thing. It's pretty dead, and so you basically just have a few people here playing, a few kids playing. Yeah, the trees are nice. Unfortunately, I don't think they're native to this area. Again, they were planted on purpose to make it look greener. That's the thing. It's the issue with Vegas is water and anything related to it. So one sub-issue is greenery. How green can you make the desert? That's basically what it is. So I'll sign off. It's been about 20 minutes. I like keeping these videos short. So hopefully I'll be able to do one at a casino scene. I might do one at the Orleans and check that out. But all right, that's it for now.